What's up, everyone? Ryan with Triple V bringing to you an about me and my journey into reselling. So, all of you guys have been watching the content. I've kept most of personal details out of the content, not purposefully, but I figured at this point we've been making videos pretty consistently. Subscriber amounts have been going up, building more of a connection with you guys. So decided to do an about me and how I even got started with reselling and content creation. I think the best way to do this, I'm going to kind of chapter it out like a book. So we're just going to start where it started and then where we are today. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. I hope you find the information for what it is. Again, just personal details and how I ended up here. So let's just start off with chapter one, which is how it started. Alrighty, so where it all began, we're already talking a couple of years ago. I don't know for anybody else out there, but time just seems to be kind of cruising on by. So we're already talking a couple of years ago. How it all really essentially started was a divorce. And with that, being jobless, without a vehicle, and that's the big ones right there. Jobless, without a vehicle, set up kind of this whole scenario. So back then, that's pretty much everything that happened. Looking for work. One of the ways, just some of the additional details, like I did ask my father to come live with me. He moved in. I was renting off of my sister, and he had moved in. Kind of worked out very well. Not a really big detail there, but so asked him to move in. He had moved in. And at that same point, I was talking to Mama Sue. So we were talking about some things, kind of just, reconnecting in a way. So talking to Mama Sue, she has been reselling for many years. We're going to do a section on Mama Sue and a chapter. But she had been selling for many of years, so she wanted to try something different. So she wanted to try selling on Whatnot. At this point, I had been live streaming video games for a little bit, and honestly, definitely didn't go anywhere. But that's what I was doing for like a little side hustle, I guess. At that point, was streaming video games. So she thought, like, hey, it'd be a little opportunity. I want to do live streaming, live sales. So she had asked me to come over, test it out, and yeah, that's where that kind of started as well. Was just I needed a job, and Mama Sue just lived right up the road, so it kind of was perfect. So being close, started Whatnot. Now, when we first started Whatnot, it did not take off right away. There wasn't a big social media presence or anything else like that. So we were one of the first jewelry sellers to start on Whatnot when they just opened up all the categories. So we were one of the first ones on there. I do believe that helped out a lot. But we started reselling jewelry. It was going okay. I was also working a separate job at that time, doing concrete. So in the morning, 9 to 3, I think it was probably about the hours, I was doing concrete work, construction. And then afterwards, come over. I think we were doing it. I think when we first started, we were doing 2 shows a week. So 2 days out of the week, I'd hop on over. We'd do the Whatnot live. And that was my first ever experience with reselling at all, which was just running the live. I knew nothing about jewelry at all. That's probably the whole brooch thing. I just called them pins. Honestly, I think the way that I started explaining about brooches in general were calling them items. Up next, we have another item. I didn't even use the word pin. I didn't use the word brooch. I didn't know the word rhinestone. Absolute no knowledge whatsoever. Reselling anything. Had no idea. So that's pretty much it. Starting life over again and putting that first foot in the door with reselling with Whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much the beginning and how it all started. And again, I also at this point want to just say, like, for me, I've worked a lot of construction jobs, factory jobs. I've worked in garages. I've mainly done manual labor my entire adult life. So it's all manual labor. I moved a lot of jobs because another detail about me that really connects the reselling is I have a problem when I work at a job. It takes 2 months ish. Even most of the time, most of the jobs were pretty boring. So it was like within a month, learning the whole job, doing it for a couple of months, doing the same repetitive thing over and over and over again. Like I did a lot of order select. I worked at a Dollar Tree warehouse, which was just slap a label on a on a package and throw it on an assembly line and just keep doing that all day long, 12-hour shifts, 3 days, so it's always been manual labor. Construction always was a little bit better and my fallback to, because there's always something to learn. And that's why tying that into reselling, I think, is very important, because with reselling, you're constant knowledge and the different ways to go about doing it. It is the same thing over and over again, but the knowledge doesn't ever really stop. You can continuously learn. There's millions of items out in the world, and finding out the details, the specifics on what really makes it a valuable item, I think, is what really intrigued me into reselling. So yeah, that is chapter 1, kind of setting it up for you guys. Chapter 2, I do believe we'll go about Mama Sue and her start to reselling. Alrighty, so the way that I'm going to start Mama Sue's story is 3 descriptive ways that I can explain her in my own words. 1, she's definitely got to be the sweetest woman out there. 2, workaholic is definitely on there. And 3, the understanding and for other people is probably the 3 best ways that I can explain her. Now, her reselling beginning started with the beginning of eBay. So she has been selling on eBay since eBay became a thing, but I think it does also go back further before that, before internet, I guess is the best way to explain that one. I definitely remember my grandfather with flea markets. There we go. It took me a little bit. My grandfather with flea markets, I think we all were a part of that at some point or another. I definitely even remember being a little kid and going to, some of the local flea markets. So that in that aspect, I think really is what started it. And then the online aspect, that definitely changed the whole ball game. Again, it's not local anymore. It kind of expands it out tenfold. So she had started with eBay as soon as eBay became a thing. It has kind of popped back and forth, working traditional jobs and then the reselling. But for the most part, has been a consistent thing throughout 30 years, if not more than that. So she's always been reselling. And I think it boils down to the same thing with Mama Sue. It's the, my work is appreciated because it's mine and I'm not doing it for somebody else. The learning aspect as well. So yeah, she definitely started with eBay. When eBay became a thing, it's been working. It's funny enough, I remember being, probably a teenager at this point. And she used to sell like party favor things, and they were just beads. And what she would do is bulk buy large and then kind of like separate down. And I remember being occasionally when I needed money as a teenager, I think as all teenagers do, we ask for money. And one of the ways that, it would kind of counterbalance it of nah, I'm not just going to give you money, would be counting out 25. And then, just counting out the beads, 25, 25, 25. We've definitely... that was like a key memory of my teenage years, is just sitting there counting the 25 different style beads in their own little bags. And that's it. She's definitely done a little bit of everything inside of reselling, all different styles. Very knowledgeable. Again, if you guys ever have questions about reselling, all you do is have to drop them down in the comments. I don't believe that it'll be any type of issue to answer. Again, it's been going on in our family for many years. Again, between local yard sales, estate sales, you name it, we've been doing it. Again, not so much myself. It took me being, I don't want to do this manual labor. Not that I don't love manual labor. As you guys see with the shorts and the tearing down of the shed, I'm currently working out in the backyard, the garage, storage units. Like me personally, I do enjoy manual labor, but there has to be a little bit of brain power behind it. But anyway, back to Mama Sue. So she's been selling for many years, and Whatnot had just came out. It was out for a little bit, but it was mainly collectibles. Not something that she's really keen on collecting, but she's always been doing jewelry. I can say I think she does absolutely love jewelry. So yeah, that's where the 30 plus years of experience, non-experienced, came together in that moment for Whatnot. And that's Mama Sue. A little bit of detail behind, but again, like her and Papa Harry had been reselling for many of years. He had his own little thing going on along with her. But yeah, I think that's something that they both really did truly enjoyed together. And well, now I think it's officially part 3, which I'm gonna title Meeting My Perfect Person. Alrighty, so the start of Josie and I, or JoJo, or Discovering Bliss. As you guys know, she does and has done a couple of unboxing videos for us, so she is present into the YouTube channel. Again, for the people that have been around and know, she is currently pregnant, so we do have a child on the way. That is something that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit down the road. But our start and how it all began, I know a couple of people have definitely asked, and I think this is a great time. Well, we've explained it a little bit. So yeah, we're going to start about how that started. So Josie and I knew each other from a couple of years prior. We had worked at the same job, actually. So we worked at the same job, and we were just pretty much, talk at work, so on and so forth. Nothing crazy. We literally worked. It was a cubicle job. Let's just put it that way. On the phones, lots of fun. But we'd work next to each other. Used to just kind of BS back and forth a little bit every so often, and so we'd known each other. Then a couple of years went by, everything with that kind of happened. And she had reached out to me, just pretty much asking how I've been, what I've been up to. Sort of, kind of. She herself, at that point, had also just got out of a long relationship. And I do believe that's probably one of the most important key parts to the start of our relationship. Now, when we had first started talking, and even like the first date and everything else like that, we had pretty much the way that we connected to each other. Yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. So pretty much it was just supposed to be more friends than anything. We both just got out of a really long relationship. Time had passed, obviously. But it was still recent enough, I think, for the both of us that we were really trying to work on ourselves before trying to do anything else. And that's really where I was, is trying to figure out me, myself, and who I was. And she was going through the same thing, which ultimately just kind of opened up the door to where what we would do is just hang out in the car, and we would have hour-long conversations. So we would just talk about the way that we felt, about things in our past, and it was kind of just like therapy in the moment of both of us just kind of going back and forth. And then we just kind of started to realize that like we have the same mindset enough to where like we were very compatible, I guess is the best way to explain it. So we're both very compatible. The way that we, felt, and some of the decisions that we made in life and everything else like that, we really, just that compatibility started to expand a little bit. And not only that, but here, let me just try to think of what I'm thinking, because that's the hard part. So again, the conversations, the compatibility, and then just being there to hear each other's side. And, kind of, we both just laid everything out on the tables. We didn't start with, this is why I'm the greatest person. We really started with the bad and the good, but we combined it together, and I think that really helped us connect to one another. And then a big conversation aspect of our lives is Josie, even back when we used to work together years prior, she was reselling. So she was reselling more as a, like a side hustle at that point. But so me just getting in, not just getting into, I was, we were definitely a couple months in, into reselling. So, I was selling on Whatnot at that point, really getting comfortable, getting an idea of reselling. And then her talking about that. And then that really kind of just allowed us to, it was like a whole nother hidden doorway of like, I understand, not everybody understands the reselling lifestyle. And I do believe that could be complicated for a lot of people out there of like, why, I guess is the best way to explain it. Or, the work aspect of reselling can also be misunderstood. And I think that's about all I'm going to say about that. So I think that fact of like me understanding that, and then like that alone, I think helped her in the moment of like, like this is really something that I love to do. And there's a person that also understands and loves to do it. So yeah, that definitely kind of added a lot to our relationship at that point. So, at that point, there were a couple of things that happened. And the best way to explain it is, Josie moved in. We were living together. At that point, I was like, hey, I'm selling on Whatnot. I think it's a really good place to move inventory quickly. You may not get as much as you are on other platforms. About me and also about different selling platforms. But I was like, you may not get like top money for it, but you might, like, I think it's a good place to start. I think Whatnot's going to be really, really beneficial. So I convinced her to like, okay, we're going to start reselling. One of I think all of our, like good memories at that point, there was an ad for an old school in our local area that had closed down. I think they were converting it over to apartments. So it was an abandoned school, has been abandoned for a lot of years. And we pretty much just they were in there clearing stuff out. They said, take whatever you want, because whatever you don't is just going out into the out into the dumpster. Which at that point, it was just so overwhelming. Like, that was my first big pick to where, like, it was a whole school. You know what I mean? Most people pick like a basement or a garage or something. Like, my first big pick was this abandoned school, which was really cool. But it was overwhelming in the instance of like, there were a lot of books. It was a school, religious school as well. So there were a lot of Bibles and stuff like that. So it's just overwhelming with the amount of stuff that was in that building. But it was such a cool time. So we would go, we'd pick it, we went out to eat afterwards. It was really just a whole experience. Super cool. And again, at that point, we were steady enough that like, she had already met Mama Sue, they had talked, Papa Harry as well. So it was just like really all of the puzzle pieces kind of started clicking together. But yeah, as far as our relationship goes and how that all started, I think for multiple different reasons, we were two people, that really, we were literally at the same point of our journey. And then we just happened to reconnect with one another. And I think, everything kind of happens for a reason. I do believe that, as much as you can allow it to. So it was very different. And again, we were really good at conversating and understanding and not allowing, prejudgments to happen, to where, like, again, we just told each other everything, let it all out onto the table. And then that reselling aspect is really tying everything back together. And now we're here. So yeah, that's another chapter in the book right there. And I think the next one is going to be chapter 4, which, just bear with me, it might take a couple of cuts, and we'll get through it as best as possible. Alrighty, so we're officially at this point. We went over myself and how, what exactly went on to get me to start reselling, Mama Sue, and then Josie and I's relationship. And then the next part is definitely a turning point, and how I went from living with my father to, obviously, right now I live with Mama Sue. And this will kind of definitely help explain all that and why and reselling really became a thing at that point. So a couple of years ago, we got the horrible news about Papa Harry. He got diagnosed with stage 4 small cell lung cancer. And so with that being said, that was definitely something that was very detrimental in the moment, especially with us and the situation of reselling. Again, at that point, I was coming over, doing the shows for Mama Sue. I think by that point, we were doing like 5 shows a week. We were definitely diving full into Whatnot. So, again, we were pretty much really rocking Whatnot at that point, and the realization of Whatnot and what the possibilities really are for that site, the amount of people that had our backs and stood up for us in that moment, I can honestly say I don't believe that there's any other platform out there that could have done as much as they did, especially to alleviate some of the stress and everything else like that that comes along with a situation like that. So I do, the people that know, I don't think that any one of us could really say thank you enough to those people. Again, it was kind of unbelievable in the moment. It was, I don't even know, kind of like a loss of words. So that situation definitely, it was rough. Obviously treatments and stuff like that, with Papa Harry being the only one that drove, and I was already over here anyway. We were doing Whatnot, taking him to his appointments and everything else like that definitely became a part of everyday life. So that's where we were. Now, when I say he did lose the fight, I don't think anybody around us believes that he actually lost. To put it in perspective for you guys, he made it very apparent to the nurses, patients around him. He was fighting, without a doubt. Some of the memories that I think we all have that we look back on is kind of just unbelievable. Alrighty, so with that being said, obviously the one of the easiest situations with post office stuff, of course, shipping is a big part of reselling. At that moment, Josie and I had both decided to move in with Mama Sue. So that's pretty much how that all happened. Now, that's it's definitely been like a roller coaster for the past couple of years. Highs, lows, but I feel like that's everybody's life. It's just a little different because I'm on camera explaining it. So I think at this point, more of us as Triple V and who it consists of, I think is going to be Chapter 5. Alrighty, so officially with this part, kids. We do have children. Now, I have 2 children of my own, which I'm pretty much just going to use my phone here real quick to show you. So we have up first, this is Raiden. Oh, you can kind of see me in the reflection, but this is Raiden. He is my oldest. He is 11 years old. And then we have Jackson. So we do have Jackson as well. He is 7 years old. He is nonverbal autistic. So that always kind of plays a little role into everything. Honestly, I mean, I'm just going to, throw it into this video. I do want to kind of do like a Jackson playtime, with autism. Obviously, parents with children with autism, trying to find the right toys and stuff like that really does, like, he has his things, and obviously it, there's no guarantee for all children, but just kind of like that, doing some Amazon, having him play, see how he does. There's definitely a couple of toys so far that really do. He enjoys. It keeps him immersed into it, and it is good. So then there is Jackson. He is 7 years old. And then Josie's son, Julian. There is Julian. He is 7 as well. So again, 11, 7, 7. And then we do have an ultrasound of the baby. So again, ultrasound of the baby. As of right now, she is a girl, and we're thinking we're kind of on, like, we're still open to names. So if you have any name suggestions, be sure to drop them down in the comments. But as of right now, we're going with Delilah Grace. So Delilah Grace, we have the ultrasound. She is expected to be with us July 15th. So July 15th has that scheduled, which is pretty cool. She'll be here. I'm excited. It's been a couple of years since I held a baby, and I don't know, it's just super exciting to me. So there's also that aspect. So we do have, it's going to be in total 4 children. Does, as far as reselling, I know like a lot of channels love to do, like a thrift with me or, estate sales. We've tried with the kids. It is not easy. Any parent that has children, and I think the hard part is as well, it's like me and Josie truly do love doing everything together. There's not much that we don't. But there's ways that we've tried to make it work. It's still like, keeping the kids in the car while we do it, like just if I go in first and then she's out there and then she goes in, they don't really get the, they're stuck in the car. And then taking them in, it's not bad. But again, a 7-year-old with autism is an estate sale is not a place to be. Julian went to an estate sale with us the last time. He did absolutely fantastic. Everyone else around him, though, they had no spatial awareness, right? And I get it. They're excited about the pick and everything else like that. But he's a 7-year-old, and like he kept apologizing. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And he kept backing away. And then like they were just kind of reaching over him and everything else like that. So, and he is really polite. He's a kid, and, as far as like his mom and not listening and stuff, he's a kid. But he really is polite, and he did such a fantastic job. It's just people around being people. So estate sales, stuff like that, like I would love to do it. And then especially with the baby on the way. That's why, like, kind of, I do think about it a lot. Like, I would love to have physical items. Like, not only just showing you guys what sells for a lot of money, but also, like, here are the items that I have. Jewelry, though, that one's always, like, we go through mass amounts of jewelry. Again, we are on Whatnot. As of right now, the schedule is set up with Vintage Vagabond Vends, Mama Sue, and I. We have those shows Sunday and Tuesday. And then Discovering Bliss, a.k.a. JoJo, but with her being very pregnant. I've been running those shows, so that's also that's going to be every Monday and Wednesday. Everything's set for 7 p.m. each day, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, doing those shows. And then obviously the content aspect as well. I'm doing the daily bolos. I want to do the top selling jewelry each week. I was really horrible at the post with me every day, but I think the way posting that video every day, I don't think it's going to be beneficial. So what I'm going to do is just kind of, these are the items that I'm listing, show the done listing, maybe like 1 or 2, just so that way, like, for the people that are just getting into eBay and listing and stuff like that, I think that'll be beneficial, but more condensed down throughout the week, and then, what the items sell for. That's the other part of it, to where it didn't have that, so it was just like, okay, you're listing, kind of cool, but, so we also have that, so top selling jewelry, list with me, the daily bolos. I know that there's not a whole lot of attraction there, but you never know. I'm trying to build myself into a scheduled lifestyle. I adjusted my sleep schedule. We are very much all reseller, nightlife type of people, I guess is the best way to explain it. But I got myself adjusted to where I'm waking up early in the morning now. And yeah, so like I'm trying to just wake up, repetitively do the same thing. So again, it starts off with the daily bolo, then working on a video, the live shows Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But then again, so back into what we were originally talking about. It's just a Mama Sue. She does kind of camera shy, which is the whole reason why I even started Whatnot. For her was the nerves aspect, where I do have that person, like in person. If you were to ask me to read in front of people, it's not happening. But online, I don't really have that anxiety. Sometimes depending on, what it is. So, there's Mama Sue. She's not really going to be much on the camera. Maybe, honestly, with her pulling all the inventory for whatnot, and packing. She does all the packing. She does everything. All I do is run the show. I pretty much, the best way to explain myself is content specific. Whereas like JoJo and Mama Sue are putting the grunt work behind it. And I do as well, just definitely not as much. Nowhere near. And that's kind of like the whole scenario. And that is how I got into reselling, and that's how we're all here currently. If you're wondering, like, well, why is he talking about this channel and this channel? Like, again, we were separated, at that point to where we weren't living together. And now that we're living together, I always kind of went back and forth in my mind of like, but, it kind of works out in a way that Mama Sue's got hers. Josie's got hers. I have mine, especially with the storage units. Again, that's kind of just like, they definitely help with the getting the storage unit. But as far as like, Josie was helping me with, clearing them out. But for the most part, like, that's me. So I've been doing a lot of heavy lifting. I know you guys haven't, there's a couple videos on there with the storage units. It's a lot of heavy lifting. I just don't see the point of, paying somebody to help me. I'm just stubborn like that. So, the kids, I have definitely, again, not really mentioned much of this in any past video. And again, Jason Adams was the one that kind of made me realize, like, hey, we're pushing 10,000 subscribers, and most of y'all don't even know my name, because I never started it with, like, hey, guys, Ryan with Triple V here. I just always, like, hey, jewelry lovers, and, hey, Triple V fam and jewelry lovers. That's what I say. I just never put my name, even my name. So then I was like, well, might as well just, we're pushing the 10,000 subscribers. Might as well do the about me. I am an open book. I am who I am. And I don't hide anything. I just never really seen an opportunity to talk about it. And I do believe our story, just like everybody has their story and their complications and everything like that. I don't know. I just felt like it was, with the channel and the direction that it's going, I just thought right now would be the best time to do it. And again, with y'all not even knowing my name, I figured, like, this would be the, like, I am Ryan, pretty much the main person putting out the content for this channel, but there's so much going on in the background that, you'll be able to see on Whatnot. And that's, we're on Whatnot, eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, I think. But there's just so much work reselling wise that's being done every single day, while taking care of kids, and just living life in general. So that's us. And that is Triple B. The kids, I don't even remember what else I wanted to necessarily go over. So, the story, the how do we get there, and that's where we're at. Is we're doing the Whatnot shows, constantly reselling, looking for different ideas. I will say another thing about me is I know it's definitely not like medically, but ADHD, I have a little bit. I start something, then I'm off to doing something else, and then I'm off to doing something else. Content-wise, kind of the same thing again with that jewelry nonstop. I was like, I need to switch it up, and I want to see what else you guys would enjoy. I do still plan on doing storage units. That's the ultimate goal for me while doing the weekly top-selling jewelry. I love jewelry. We deal with it nonstop. And yeah, that's where we're at. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. The about me, to anybody that's still here at this point, I don't even know how this video is going to go, to be honest, because I've never made anything like it before. But yeah, I just thank you guys for everybody that stuck around. Everybody who's subscribed and, subscribed, the comments, the likes, the sharing, all of that throughout the past, I'd say, year of constant content. I just want to say thank you so much. Even the littlest does help us in the greatest way possible. So just a big shout out and a big thank you to everybody. And again, I hope you enjoyed. Now you know a little bit about the Triple V fam. Woo woo. And yeah, like I said, hope you enjoyed, and catch you in the next one.